Welcome everyone, my name is Mr. otherwise known as Chris, and welcome to Black Ops 2. Now this is a pretty good game. I'm not sure if I've used this footage before. I think I've used like snippy bits of it, but I don't think I've ever used the whole thing before. So I hope you enjoy it. It's a damn good game in my opinion. Anyway, the Call of Duty Ghosts reveal, and here are my opinions on everything within the trailer. Now normally I don't really talk about Call of Duty, I don't really get excited that much for Call of Duty, I just kind of play it. However, this one, it's hit a nerve with me. I'm quite happy with this. It looks like Activision and the companies under them, like Infinity Ward and Treyarch, Infinity Ward being the people making Ghosts. It seems that they have finally decided, alright, we're going to make a Call of Duty game. It has the core Call of Duty experience, however, they've added a lot more on top of it. You see, every year they tend to do this thing where it'll be the base game with a few extra elements on top of what the last game did, and then each game will keep doing that. Whereas this year, it seems more like, instead of just adding a few bits here and there, they've actually taken the core experience which makes COD a good game, and then they've just added a ton of stuff on top of it. So I'm just going to go through all the stuff within the, the multiplayer trailer, and just talk about what I'm excited about, and why. So first of all, and probably not the most important thing out of this entire trailer, there are more kill streaks. Now, kill streaks generally annoy people in Call of Duty, not always, depends on which ones you get obviously, but some of them seem a bit overpowered. Now the reason for this is because although there's like, I think 15, maybe 20 kill streaks altogether, you can only pick 3, so most people tend to pick the ones in which they're going to be able to achieve more easily, and the ones that are the most effective. So the fact that there's more kill streaks now just means that there's more of a choice when it comes to kill streaks. So yeah, you probably might still get annoyed with the kill streaks a lot, but you won't be getting annoyed with the same kill streaks, unless of course there's like 3 really overpowered ones that everyone's going to use, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen. I doubt it will, but who knows. But yeah, kill streaks are quite exciting. More weapons as well. Now there's supposedly 30 new weapons, and I think by 30 new weapons they don't mean there's 30 weapons in the game, because that would suck, but I think they mean 30 weapons that have never been in Call of Duty before, which is exciting because we tend to see very similar weapons, or returning weapons should I say, each year that Call of Duty comes out, whereas if they mean 30 brand new weapons to Call of Duty, that's interesting. And it could also mean that there's about 60, maybe 70 weapons in the game, which is a bit more on par with its competition, which will be Battlefield. So I'm hoping that they've got a lot of guns in this game, because the more guns the game has, the more variety you tend to see, and then obviously people, you see lots of different classes. And they did specifically say in the trailer that there's 20,000 possible combinations when it comes to the class setups. That's obviously attachments, kill streaks, all that stuff, but that sounds awesome. So it sounds like they've got a lot in this game, which is good. I like to see a bit of innovation when it comes to Call of Duty, because it's been a bit dull over the past couple of years. Customizable soldiers. Now I've mentioned this before. Now what I said before was that I wasn't too excited about customizable soldiers, because it's where it's a first person shooter, you don't necessarily get to see your player that often, or if at all. You get to see his arm, or whatever, or her arm actually, because they have got females in it now, which is pretty awesome for girls who play the games. But yeah, you get to see your arm, and that's pretty cool. But my point before was that with customizable characters, the only people that actually get to see you is other people, so you don't really get to enjoy it yourself, as opposed to say a third person shooter. However, when I watched it again, it seems like there's an emphasis on squads and stuff like that, which then made me think that, oh, you could actually all have like a base colour of your uniform, but then all look different, like all of your teammates, who you play with, like your friends for example, or your team if you're part of a clan. You could wear like the same coloured coordinated clothing, but with your own different styles, and I think that's pretty cool. So now that I've thought about it with the customizable characters, I think it's a pretty decent feature, and it's not going to be game changing by any chance, by any stretch of the mind, but I do think it's really cool, so I'm looking forward to that. There's also semi-destroyable environments. Now I say semi for a reason. In Battlefield 3, 4, whatever Battlefield game you pick, you can generally level the entire map, and you can cause damage to the environment, like the floor and stuff like that, cause craters from explosions, etc. I don't think Call of Duty is working like that now, but what we saw in the trailer, you see stuff like you can shoot certain buildings and they fall down, like garages, like fuel stations, whatever you want to call them. You can also blow up like walls and stuff like that, shoot through the walls, as far as I could tell. So that's pretty cool. That's going to add an extra element to the game, I think, because at the moment it's kind of just you run around on a map which doesn't really do anything, and then, well, you kill people essentially. That's pretty much the objective on most of the game modes. Whereas with destroyable environments, you're going to have to play a bit more tactically, because you can use those to your advantage, obviously to take out other players and stuff like that, but at the same time you've got to be avoiding those from hitting you. So that's a pretty cool element to the game. I obviously want to get hands on and see what the game's actually like with those, but from what I'm guessing, sorry, I feel that it's going to be a pretty decent mechanic and will really add something to the gameplay. So that'd be pretty cool. We've also got not two new game modes, we've got 7 new game modes. Now I paused the screen when the game modes scrolled down the screen so that I could read what they were saying. So here are the new modes. You've got Search and Rescue, Grind, Blitz, Cranked, Infected, Hunted, and Safeguard. Now 3 of these I know what they are, one of them more in depth than, 2 of them more in depth than the other one. So let me just go into those. So Search and Rescue. Search and Rescue is basically, from what I've heard, it's very similar to Search and Destroy. It works on a very similar way. However, when you go down or get killed, you drop a dog tag, and I think the way it works is if your friendlies get that dog tag, they can actually bring you back into the game, so you're revived. However, if the enemies get the dog tag, you're out of the game permanently, and I think that's pretty cool. And the enemy part, getting the dog tag, I'm not sure if that's the way it works properly, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works, it's just by guessing. But the other bit, someone else confirmed. So that sounds like a pretty cool game mode. It sounds like one of those game modes you can actually play on a regular basis, like Domination, Demolition, Team Deathmatch, whatever you want to call it. Whatever game mode you want, I mean. But there are certain game modes in games, sometimes in Call of Duty, and Battlefield 3 is another example, where these game modes were added. However, they weren't really game modes which you could play in again and again and again and still have like a lot of fun and, you know, earn a lot out of it. If you look at the party games, for example, from Call of Duty Black Ops and Black Ops 2, they're pretty cool, but they don't really feel like a proper game mode. And it's the same if you look at Battlefield 3, for example. You've got air superiority. That doesn't really feel like a proper game mode either. So the fact that they're adding game modes now which are actually playable game modes on a regular basis, like Search and Rescue, go back to the old CODs, you got Kill Confirmed, Hardpoint. Game modes like that are replayable, whereas game modes that are more party-based game modes are not as replayable. Now, Cranked is another game mode that was mentioned. Essentially, you run around, so you got 30 seconds until you blow up, and you got to kill people within that 30 seconds. And what happens is every time you kill someone, it resets your timer up to 30 seconds again. Now, that's all I know about the game mode. I'm not sure if when you die completely, you're out or not. That would be pretty cool, because then obviously you got to win very quickly. But yeah, that seems like a pretty interesting game mode. Now, it's not going to be as replayable as Search and Rescue, in my opinion, but you know, if you want to play solo because all your friends are off or something like that, then that is definitely a game mode you can pick up and play. Now, they also mentioned a game mode called Infected. Now, I'm just going to guess, I'll throw this out here as a guess. I'm just going to guess that that's Infected as in the game mode from Halo and Modern Warfare 3. Where essentially 1 or 2 people at the beginning of a match start off in as infected, and they've only got knives, I think, and then all of the other team got to stay away from the infected, and the infected have got to infect everyone. It's a very simple game mode. It's very fun too. If it's not that, I'll be surprised, but that's what I'm going to guess it is. Now, we've also got new movement in Ghosts, which I think is going to be awesome, because you can now slide and vault over objects. Not slide over objects, obviously, but you can slide around if you want to. Now, this will be pretty interesting, because at the moment all you can do is run, walk, or jog, whatever you want to call it, go prone and crouch. Now, with the sliding and the vaulting, that's going to add a bit more of an element to the game, because when you're shooting at someone now, you can predict pretty much how they're going to move. They're either going to stop and shoot at you, stop, turn and shoot at you. They can duck, they can go prone, but for the most part they can't do anything else other than that. So with the sliding, you know, you got to anticipate the fact that they might slide out of the way, or they might vault over the, you know, a small wall into a house. There's many ways of going about the movement now, which I think is pretty interesting, because you know, the more you can move about, the more tactile a game becomes, because you've got to really think about everything the enemy could possibly do in a situation. Now, at the moment, it's not completely limited in Call of Duty, but with vaulting and sliding, I think that would add a bigger element into the way that you have to play tactically around your enemies and stuff like that. And I think it's going to be really cool. And I mean, I think that Call of Duty need to concentrate on keeping the accessibility that they've always had, because they've always been a very accessible game, because anyone can pick it up. Like, if you're 60 years old, if you're 8 years old, whatever, you can pick up the game and it's pretty simple to learn and play. But these sorts of things like sliding and vaulting, I don't think these are going to take away from that accessibility. It's just an extra element for players to use against their opponents, and it'll be decent because it adds it gives the option, or at least the opportunity for people to come up with new ways of playing the game, which I think is pretty interesting. Because I found that for the past couple of years, to get people start playing the game, for the first month it's all new, and then after that month people will develop. They'll understand what are the better weapons to use, what equipment is the best to use, what kill streaks are the best to use. So where they're adding more and more and more to the game this year, it seems that month period in which people try to learn the game could actually stretch out to say 2 months or 3 months, depending on obviously how many people play it and how long they play it for. I think that's pretty interesting. We just have to see how that pans out, but whichever way I'm happy, because I like to play my games tactically, so with more options to play it tactically it would just become a more fun game for me. And there are a lot of people out there who are like me and like to play their games tactically, so it would be pretty decent. Now, the last thing I noticed in the trailer, which is not the most exciting thing from the trailer, but it's pretty interesting anyway, is the fact that they seem to have a knife animation now, like they do in Battlefield, which kind of stops the whole complaints that people were always having where they go to knife someone at point blank range and they don't get them. So I think the knife animation will reduce that from happening. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. I'm actually really excited for this game. I didn't think I was going to be, but yeah, it looks really decent. So comment with what you want to comment with your thoughts on this. Like and subscribe, all that good stuff. I've been Mustafa, over and out.